Hey folks, I'm Mike. Do you hate ads? I hate ads. You know what I like? Patreon.com/Inkdependence. It keeps this blog ad-free. Hello folks and welcome to Inkdependence.com. Today we have a pair of inks. They come in these cool boxes. These are Papier Plume inks, and these are specifically the ones which come at the Chicago Pen Show, which is this weekend. So if you are watching this around the time it got uploaded, go to the Chicago Pen Show this weekend if you're in or around that area. I'll be there helping out at the Franklin Christoph table with my wife Audrey and Jim. But you'll also find probably Patrick and Renzo over at the Papier Plume table. And Papier Plume has all kinds of cool inks that are made in-house. And these two are specifically for the Michigan show. So first up, we're going to have Lake Michigan Summer, which comes in this cool little bottle. And I don't know if they're going to have other sizes there. I think it's all going to be these bottles. And there will be a limited number. I believe it's like 60 of each of these guys. So if you want to get a couple of these inks, man, you might have to like run to that table early in the morning. But they will each come with a wax seal on top. This one, they did it a little bit differently. They were trying out something that didn't quite work out, I think. It's a little bit blobby instead of being dipped and then dripped, which is a better method, I think, as far as how it looks. So yours won't look quite the same, but the label will be about the same. So this is Lake Michigan Summer. Lake Michigan Summer is quite a like a light, I don't know, greenish, turquoise-ish. Not quite either, really. It's got more blue, I feel, but also a lot of green. I'm gonna go ahead and call it aqua, which is kind of lame since it's about Lake Michigan, but maybe it's not like the sort of blue you get from the sky, but sort of blue you get from like I don't know, from a lake with a little bit of algae in it, perhaps? I don't know. The other one is a straight up green, which is very cool. This is really all up in my my wheelhouse. This is Ivy 108 to commemorate the Ivy at Wrigley Field, and the 108 is for the 108 years in between between wins. This is the sort of color you're going to get there. Of course, we'll look at it on some paper here in just a sec. But these are very nice little bottles. They're easy to fill a pen from. They're deep enough for sure for even a large nib. And I put some large nibs in there, as you'll see here in a minute. I didn't test either of these out with anything very fine. I have I just didn't have any fine nibs that I feel like putting these in, honestly, is what happened there. But I've got these in a couple of larger nibs, and we'll see how they perform. Put these over here, we can still see them. Yep, there we go, cool. All right, so here are the two colors that you can get at the Chicago Pen Show. On the left, of course, Lake Michigan Summer, which is this sort of, I don't know, aqua blue. It's a very cool color. On the right, Ivy 108, which is a very nicely shading darkish green. And I have it in 4 pens. Well, I have each of these in 2 pens. So I guess that's 4 pens total. Firstly, for the Lake Michigan Summer, I have it in this Franklin Christoph Model 20 with a medium sig nib. And I also have it in this Sailor 1911 with a broad nib. Of course, it's a Sailor broad, so not particularly broad. As you can see, the medium and the broad are actually pretty close when it comes to those things. I do have it in a fine nib, but it is a Pelikan M805 fine nib for the Ivy, so not particularly fine. And then in a big broad nib, this is my Panther 40 from Franklin Christoph with a big broad stub on it. Very cool pen. My favorite pen, just bar none. I love that pen. And this ink works really well in all 4 of these pens. It is a little bit bleedy and spready on your like crappy copy paper, but again, these are big wet nibs, and so I'm not particularly surprised. That's the sort of thing you get from a big wet nib sometimes. There it is on the Staples 20-pound copy paper. You can see maybe a little bit of like feathering here in the P, but that's a broad stub, man. That's not bad. I get a little bit here on the Y as well, but it's a Pelikan. It's super wet. This ink has some nice flow to it. I would say it's probably, I don't know, pretty medium really, but it's in some pretty wet nibs, so I think that's changing the performance just a skosh. But again, I know these pens real well, so I can tell you how they work. Here in the Sailor 1911 broad, you get a little bit of feathery action there. Not too much though. It's not bad, but a little bit. On the back, you can see they did do a little bit of bleeding. What's this one? Oh, the SIG. Yeah, not too surprising that the SIG had the very least bleed through. These other ones are pretty big nibs, including this one, which is the broad stub, which is a fairly wet nib, and then the Pelikan. This is not bad performance for a Pelikan on crappy office paper. This is just random Staples paper that you get from an office. When you put it in the SIG or maybe something smaller, you're not going to have any problems with these. These inks all have very consistent flow and very consistent properties across Papier Plume is what I've seen. And from what I've seen, I dig them. I'm really a big fan of these two inks. So let's look at this a little bit more closely if you like. You can see some of the shading here in the 800 and such. Definitely some more down here where it kind of fades through. It's not a whole lot of shading in this one, but you get more for sure here. If you look here at the Michigan and the Ive and this sort of thing, where you sort of like, I don't know, press down a little bit, or you get like, I don't know, more of the ink on there. You like write more slowly. For some reason, I tend to write my I's more slowly than other letters. I don't really know why, but I totally do, and so they end up being a little bit darker. But these are very pretty inks, I think. So if you can make it there, and look at the depth of color in this guy right here, real cool. And as I said, these are only going to be available at the Chicago Pen Show. So if you can't get there, see if you can get somebody to mule it for you or something of that nature. All right, let's go ahead and do water tests. I don't think these are going to be very water resistant, but I didn't bother doing chromatography on them, honestly, because they're not going to be available very long, and I just didn't take the time to do chromatography. I don't know if that's going to be super helpful. Either you want these inks or you don't. I think you're going to have to make a snap decision. Let's get this water test on there. Get some water here. Man, plenty of water. You really made a spill. Such a mess, Mike. I know. It's a terrible mess, but that's what I do. All right. So you can see a little bit of movement there. Not a ton, but definitely some movement. Let's go ahead and blot it up. Can I do both at the same time? Yeah, I can. All right, cool. Let's do both at the same time. Blam. There we go. Actually got a lot of ink coming through there already. Go ahead and pull it off. There we go. Let's go ahead and blot that away with that side. Blot this away with this side. Yeah, no particular water resistance, but it's actually, yeah, no real water resistance on these guys. Not a lot came up, but also not a whole lot left. And you can see the dots on the blue over here, almost for the Lake Michigan summer, almost completely gone. A little bit of fade through here, but so if you like slosh some water across it, you might be okay. But here on the green, not a lot left. You get a little bit of like brown dot left. You can probably still read the writing if you had to, but it's not going to be good. So there you go. Not much water resistance, but again, none really expected, so not a shock. Let's go ahead and look at this on some other papers right quick. This is the Ink Journal Tomoe River version. So this is a very nice paper for showing off any kind of shading or sheen that you might get. There's no sheen in these. These are pretty flat inks, which is totally fine. A lot of people don't even like sheen. I don't know, weirdos, but they don't like to see actual color. You can see some of that shading here in the squiggle. This is from the Panther. On the next page over, you've got some Lake Michigan blue up here. You got some Lake Michigan blue here. A fair amount of shading and such in these little squiggles. These squiggles are very fresh when they go down here. Here it is again. I haven't had it in this pen for very long, but a little bit of time. I was definitely doing some grading in green. My kids seem to like that all right. All right, that's all for the Tomoe River. Looks very nice there. I've actually had some inks that don't work all that well on Tomoe River, and I'm glad these do. Especially given that you get a little bit of bleed through on the crappy office paper, so if you can keep it on some good paper, that's even better. Here is the Papier Plume Michigan Blue on a currently inked notebook. This is a wheat straw paper. You can probably get this from the Pen Habit website or some other vendor, but I don't think they actually use this stuff anymore. So it's just kind of think of it as like a heavy-duty good paper. And here it is here. I think this green actually looks better on regular paper, like good regular paper, than it does on the Tomoe River because it doesn't flatten out as much and spread. So you get more of that ink in the same place. I think it looks pretty rad. I'm a big fan of that. There you go. Let's go ahead and look at a couple of examples. So this is the Lamy Pacific Blue, which is their new limited edition for this year, but it's really just their Lamy Turquoise. It's been rebottled. You can look at that and then compare it here. It's not a turquoise. So some people might think of this as a turquoise, but it's definitely not because that's a turquoise. This is more like an aqua or something of that nature. Anything else in here? There's Fire and Ice. You can sort of compare Fire and Ice to the turquoise blue to this guy right here. But the rest of these are going to be much darker, I think. There's a Venturine. This is a good comparison, perhaps, for that Ivy. So there's the Pelikan M1000's Adventurine compared to this one, which is a much darker, this ivy. I think it's a darker, more like a richer color, and I really dig this. I'm glad I got a bottle of this stuff. So there it is on a couple of other papers, and that's kind of it for today. So if you can make it to the Chicago Pin Show, please do come and say hi and mix and mingle and all that jazz, and we will have a chat. As much time as we have available. I am totally cool with that. I'll probably be around after the show as well. You can find these guys, Lake Michigan Summer and Ivy 108, at the Papier Plume table. Please do go say hi to Renzo and Patrick or whoever else is there. They are really cool guys and good to get to know, good to chat with. So I'm looking forward to meeting Renzo. I haven't met him yet, so I'm hoping he's there. But Patrick and I had some dinner in Dallas, and it was cool. And I will see y'all later. Pick these up. You can find me on Instagram as @InkDependence. You can find me on my blog at inkdependence.com for lots of static pictures and that kind of thing, if that's your jam. And I will see y'all around. Peace out.